Uh-oh. It's wanting me to share my webcam, but I don't want to. Oh, hold on.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to the webcast, Building Cultures of Compassionate Accountability. This advanced webinar is for people who have taken the DRA, perhaps seen the previous webinar that I did, or had previous exposure with our tools or our models. I'm Nate Regier, and it's great to have everybody here today. A little bit about what we're going to cover. Today we're going to look at interpreting a DRA. The Drama Resilience Assessment is an instrument that you've had an opportunity to take. If you purchased my book, you had a chance to take that, or maybe you were at a trade show or other event where you've had a chance to get your results. So we'll take a look at how to interpret the DRA and what are some other ways that we can use this instrument in our organizations and in our work with other people. We'd like to then cover how organizations thrive or struggle based on how they deal with drama and compassion. We're going to take a look at some cycles of organizations and how that matches up with cycles of civilizations and what the relationships are there. For those of you that are interested, we're going to finish with looking at a roadmap for how would you bring compassionate accountability to your organization. What would you do if you wanted to bring these tools and these resources and these skills into your company regardless of the size? And along the way we'll stop at plenty of places to be able to answer your questions. And anytime you can type your questions into the you can type your questions in, and I will be able to see them and we'll answer them, all of the questions that come in. So let's get started. Let's look at interpreting the DRA. If you have your Drama Resilience Assessment, I invite you to get it out, and chances are you'll see something like this in front of you. I want to share with you a little bit about what you're looking at here. This is our model called the Cycle of Compassion, or the Compassion Cycle. And what we see here is the drama triangle on the outside made up of the roles of victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And inside is the cycle with the skills of openness, resourcefulness, and persistence. On your particular results, you will see numbers put in various places. This is the basic DRA report, and it has numbers for the victim, persecutor, and rescuer, the 3 drama roles, and then it also has numbers for the 3 compassion skills. A little bit about how to interpret these numbers. First of all of the numbers go from 0 to 100. That is, the minimum is 0, the maximum is 100. And the higher the number, the more likely or stronger that particular thing is. So with the drama roles, we would want the numbers to be lower, because the higher the number, the more likely that you are exhibiting that drama role or drama behavior in your daily life. With the compassion skills, we want those numbers to get closer to 100, because that means that that skill is more and more well developed. Also, we want to look at the relationships or the ratios between the skills and the drama roles that match up. So for example, here where open is 55 and victim is 29, we want to look at the relationship between those two and what that says about your resilience to drama. For this particular person, we can see that their victim score is 29, which means fairly low. 29% of the time is not a lot of time to be experiencing that victim. So that's a fairly low likelihood. The rescuer is 44% of the time, close to half of the time, not too high. We tend to categorize this as kind of medium to moderate risk for drama. With the persecutor role, this one is the highest of the 3 at 73%. So with this particular person, we would say that their persecutor role or persecutor behavior is the most likely drama behavior that we would see from this person, roughly 73% of the time. Let's take a look at the compassion skills, because these are what counterbalance or build resilience against drama. Openness for this person is right at 55%, and it's quite a bit higher than their victim score. So they're able to be open and practice the skill about half of the time, and their confidence is fairly strong in this, and it also means that they have good resilience to resist going to the victim position in drama, because the difference between those scores is 26 points. On the resourceful side, we have 87% with resourceful, which is by far the strongest skill for this person. That means that they have a lot of competence, a lot of confidence in their ability to problem solve resourcefully, to be able to bring lots of resources to bear on a situation, to be able to be curious and help problem solve with people in ways that build capability and confidence instead of building dependence. The resourceful score is 43 points higher than rescuer, so there's a lot of difference there, which means that there's a lot of great resilience to drama at that part of the cycle. This person's persistence score is 44, which is less than half of the time this person is able to be persistent when needed. And the difference is a minus 29 points, which means that there is by far more likelihood of persecutor than there is the buffer or the resilience of persistence to be able to counterbalance that. So we might expect from this person that fairly regularly, instead of being persistent and being able to hold themselves and other people accountable in healthy ways, they might instead attack or blame or criticize or tend to have attitudes like, you know, sometimes you just have to bring the hammer down on people. And their way of enforcing rules or boundaries might be more persecutorial in nature than it is healthy persistence. Another angle that we can look on this is to look at the relationship between the compassion skills to each other, because balance is very, very important when it comes to leveraging these three skills to be healthy. Openness is at 55. Resourcefulness is at 87, and persistence is at 44. So resourcefulness is by far the most developed and quite overdeveloped skill compared to the other two. It's great to have high scores. However, if one of the scores is a lot higher than the other ones, what can happen is we might over-rely on that skill, or we might tend to overuse it at the expense of the others. One of the things I talk about in my book is what happens when individuals or cultures get out of balance by overusing one skill at the expense of the others. I'm going to advance here and take a look at some of the ratios. Some of you might have output reports for your drama resilience assessment that have ratios. And what these are is comparing your compassion skill overall to your drama score overall, and then comparing each individual skill with the other one. If your number is above 1, that means that compassion is higher than drama. I like to say compassion is winning today. If it's below 1, that means that drama is winning today, and maybe drama is getting the upper hand today. The bigger the ratio is, the better your drama resilience, because that means that compassion is higher than drama and compassion is winning, and that's what we want to work towards. I want to be sure that I am receiving questions. I don't see any yet, but you're free to send in your questions anytime. I'm happy to answer them. In fact, I might stop now right there and see if anybody has any questions about how to interpret the scores and what the scores mean in relationship to one another. Okay, none yet, so I'm going to move on. Christy, I know you're there on the other end. I just want to be sure that if there's anything else that I don't have turned on, that we have it activated so that people can send in their questions. I want to share a little bit about how compassionate accountability works. We talked a little bit about this in the first webinar webinar, and I want to go a little bit deeper about what this looks like and then how this applies to organizations, particularly the difference between organizations that thrive because they're able to leverage the power of compassion and accountability and organizations that struggle because they're not able to do that or they get out of balance. A quick review is that we know that openness helps support environments that are safe and caring, where the most important things can get out on the table because we feel safe enough to share what's really going on with us, what we're concerned about, what we're excited about, what our real motives are. Resourcefulness facilitates an environment of curiosity where we're able to really be interested in problem solving and interested in people's ideas and not knock an idea until we've really considered it and given it the light of day. And so resourcefulness helps get all of the right resources out on the table so we can work effectively towards problem solving. Persistence breeds environments of consistency where there is balance, there is consistency between word and deed. If we say we're going to do it, we do it. And if we make promises, we follow through on those promises. If we have boundaries and rules, we follow them and we enforce them. So caring, curiosity, and consistency are the three hallmark characteristics of healthy, compassionate, accountable cultures. What happens when they get out of balance in life or in work? Well, let's take a look at some typical out-of-balance cultures that we work with and what it looks like. What about an environment that has high persistence and very low resource, or high persistence and resourcefulness, but low openness? This is very typical of manufacturing environments where they're very, very regimented, they're very, very problem-focused and task-focused, and they follow a lot of rules that they have to follow. In these situations, it often isn't described as a safe emotional place where people can be vulnerable with one another, and it tends to be fairly regimented, very structured, very task-focused. We were brought in once to a large organization that was had Lean Six Sigma organization in there, and we were working with over 35 master black belts. And one of the things they recognized is that they were definitely high in R and high in P, but very low in openness. And they had all these great solutions and great ideas and great ways of solving problems, but they weren't able to build close relationships or get buy-in from people. And so developing their openness was a critical competency for them to be more effective. What about environments that are high in openness and high in resourcefulness but low in persistence? This might be typical of a tech startup or any startup for that matter. I know this was Next Element when we started. Lots of openness, we're getting together, we're a close team, we're building community, we can have a drink in the middle of the day with each other because it's our company and we can do whatever we want. We could have a pool table and a ping pong table, and we could have our staff meetings at the coffee shop because it's all about relationships. And, oh man, did we have lots of great ideas. We were creative, we were resourceful, we came up with so many things. But you know the difficult part with low P is it's difficult to follow through and do the hard work and make those sales calls every day and do those things that aren't fun, but they require stick-to-itiveness. And so often tech startups don't make it because they have a lot of ideas and a lot of creative solutions, but they've never really done the hard work of following through and seeing it through to completion. What about high openness and high persistent cultures that are very low in resourcefulness? Well, we tend to see this. These are cultures typified by tradition, and it's often tradition of service. And so nonprofit and religious organizations tend to have a lot of this. They don't really change. They don't do a lot of creative, innovative stuff, but boy, they're focused on relationships and they're committed to tradition and doing the things the way we've done them for 100 years. That's some examples of what happens when we get imbalance in work and life. I'm curious what questions you have, and I'm still not seeing anything, Christy. I want to be sure that I am seeing questions. Can you give me some signal that you're hearing me and that we're connected? Okay. Well, if you have any questions, it is okay to share them. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say. All right, great. Looks like things are working. Fantastic. All right. Well, one of the things about the DRA I do want to share is that it doesn't just have to be for individuals. Sometimes we could do the DRA for a group, and we have groups that are very interested in getting an aggregate profile to look at what does the drama resilience look like in their whole team, or what does it look like in the whole company. And so we have organizations where we do what are called drama culture scans, where we can look at the drama resilience of the entire organization. Or maybe you want to do it to use it to do team building, and you can get individual DRAs for everyone on the team, and then we can do an aggregate profile for you where you can see the group as a whole and see what kind of change there might be from the beginning to the end of an intervention or an educational event, leadership development, or even just an annual benchmark. It's also a great tool for 360-degree assessments, because the DRA has you rate yourself, and it's possible also to use it to rate somebody else. And that way you can get different perspectives on how you see yourself, how other people see you, and be able to do some adjustments and calibrations to be more effective as a leader, as a communicator, as a parent. Any questions about the DRA before we move on to cultures and organizations of drama and compassion? Okay. Well, Chapter 5 of my book, if you've read the book, you know that Chapter 5 was a chapter I almost didn't include because it was kind of a tangent into more theoretical stuff, but I felt like it was important to include it because it shows the genesis of our theory and where some of our theories came from. I'm seeing here that okay, great. Let's look here. All right. It shows how some of our theories came and where the cycle of compassion came from. So I want to share with you a little bit about that. It was, I was going to Costa Rica for a vacation with my wife, and we were flying, and I was reading this book right here. Oh, good. I've got some questions coming. I'll answer this one here in a little bit. I was reading this book called Deep Truth by Greg Braden, and the subtitle is Igniting the Memory of Our Origin, History, Destiny, and Fate. Wow, that sounds like kind of a big deal. And I typically don't read books like this that have some big title like Deep Truth, but I started reading it, and I was fascinated by the book, and it's Greg Braden's theory that the rise and fall of civilizations really has to do with how humankind deals with conflict. And what he discovered was something fascinating in that there have been more human civilizations than we thought have existed in our history. And some civilizations may have even existed during ice ages, which means they were pretty smart, pretty innovative, and pretty creative. So let's take a look at how civilizations rise and fall if we map it onto the compassion cycle. The first thing that happens is every civilization starts at open with incredible vulnerability to the environment and incredible connection. We don't have any resources, we don't have any way to protect ourselves, so we are very, very vulnerable and very in tune with the environment. But you know, humans are very curious, and so by and by we explore, we start to figure things out, we want to learn and figure out the world around us. And what happens is human creativity and ingenuity eventually leads to problem solving, and so we start to figure things out. Particularly, we figure out how to reduce our pain and increase our sense of security and pleasure and safety. And so we start to have problems, or we start to solve problems, and we increase our safety and our predictability through structures, through clothing, through tools, through being able to domesticate livestock, a lot of different ways that we are able to have a more safe and predictable world around us. But what tends to happen then is that a status quo evolves, because a status quo is basically just, this is how we do things around here. And so we want to keep it going. We want that safety and predictability to continue. And so how do you protect the status quo? Well, at persistence, what tends to develop in every civilization is traditions, ideologies, and laws, because these are about ways of keeping the status quo going and formalizing the way we do things around here. Now, this is all great and fine and good until something starts to happen. And in every single civilization that has risen and fallen in the history of mankind and humankind, is what starts to happen is that population becomes unsustainable because people are sedentary and they're consuming more and more and more resources. And because life is safe and predictable, we procreate more and more and more. There's also climate change. The climate has changed dramatically many times in the course of our time on Earth. Shortages of food and water, and then with these things come growing gaps in health, wealth, and education. And the bigger that those gaps get, and the more that there is competition for resources, the more there's a threat of war and other violent conflict. Because the civilization next to us wants the same things that we have, and when we bump into one another, conflict ensues. The question then is, what do we do with that conflict? Historically, what has happened is that conflict has resulted in casualties. And those casualties either are we don't pay attention and change and adapt to climate change, or we kill each other off, or we run out of food and water and resources. Either way, we come to an end, and then it all starts over again. The real question here, I think, is can we break through and get back to open, as the cycle would suggest? And that's the big question that Braden asks in his book, is will we get it right this time? Because we're on the brink right now as a civilization, in our culture. If you look around, you see a lot of conflict with casualties, and a lot of it relates to how tradition, ideologies, and laws come into conflict with one another, and all of these things shown in the orange box. So I'm going to take a break. I have some questions coming in. I'm very excited. So I'm going to, before I go and look at how this applies to organizations, I'd like to answer a couple of the questions here. One person asked, here's a great one. Can you change startup mentalities to increase P, or is it better to bring in high P people? I mentioned that those startups lack persistence, and that's one of the reasons that they fail. You know, when we started ours, we knew that we needed P, and so we brought in somebody that was very high in P, and she was very good at quality control, following through on promises with customers, maintaining standards, policies, things like that, that were critical for us to be successful. I think P can be developed, and very effective teams and companies, they have strengths. They bring in strengths from all sides. Another person asked, I took my DRA at the Kansas SHRM conference. Yeah, that was great. That was a great time. And, oh, what happened to it? There it was. When I got my test back, I could have different results if my test was completed after instruction. Is that typical? Absolutely. It's possible for these results to change. And they are influenced by our situation, they're influenced by the environment that we're in at a current time, and they can be influenced by the fact that you know about this model. And even if you started to work on some things, it can change the results. Another question was, could you explain the persistence to persecutor ratio that shows up on the report? Absolutely. There are 4 ratios, and one of them has to do with the overall compassion to drama relationship, and then there are 3 that relate to each of the compassion skills. The persistence to persecutor ratio has to do with how much resilience do you have, where your persistence score is weighing against your persecutor tendencies. The higher the number, the more your resilience. The other one is, what's the highest score per category? 100. Everything goes from 0 to 100, where 0 means none of the time, 100 means all of the time. Question here was, should we be concerned when something doesn't add up to 100? It was stated about how you are in a certain part of drama triangle a certain percent of the time. Great question. And if you're trying to make things add up to 100, it's not going to work, because every one of the numbers is independent, and it's possible to have high scores in all 3. We see people playing all 3 drama roles on a given day, and we see people exhibiting strength in all 3 of the compassion skills. So no, they can add up to much more than 100. Here's a great one. My persecutor score is 24, and my persistence score is 94. Could you explain the correlation? You know, I'm going to go back, actually. May as well see this. Here's the correlation. If you have a persistence of 94 and a persecutor of 24, you have really strong resilience. That means that you have the strength and the ability to do healthy persistence without slipping into drama and attacking or blaming people instead. So that's really good. How does civilization start over again? What is that process? That is a great segue. So I'll go back here and let's take a look at this. Appreciate the questions. Glad they're coming in now, and thank you for sharing them, Christy. Well, this is the big question. How do we start over again? Well, the further we go into conflict with casualties, in other words, the further we get off course into drama, the further we fall, because inevitably either the climate, our inability to adapt to the climate, or our inability to do conflict in healthy ways is going to kill us, or make us go extinct, or knock us down, whatever. But inevitably we're going to end back at open, where we have no choice but to be incredibly vulnerable and reconnect with the environment and reconnect with each other. I think we see a lot of initiatives now globally trying to bring us from P back to O, where we can let go, stop long enough pursuing our own ideologies to actually reconnect with people and build relationships. Seth Godin, a blogger that I really like reading, he's big on what he calls the relationship economy, and he believes that our ability to go back to open and build relationships that are strong and resilient is going to be our key to survival and our key to success going forward. Let's look at this. What does it take was the question. Well, it takes our ability to stop long enough, get off our ideology, get off our law, get off our tradition long enough to just listen to what's going on around us, listen to what's going on inside of us, and adapt to what's going on around us. Let's take a look at how this might play itself out in an organization. What if an organization followed the exact same trajectory, where we started up, we got curious, we started solving problems, we created products, we started to develop a brand reputation, we had ways of doing things in our culture, and so we were established as a company. And typically what happens when most companies get to this point is they have a great reputation, their brand loyalty, people know who they are, and they have solid, strong customers, and they have processes and procedures that have worked and are working great, and so they're time tested. And then another thing we start to see is what we call policy manual creep, because tradition, ideology, and laws happens in organizations too, and so the policy manual starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're spending more and more time trying to keep people in line than actually figuring out how to adapt to what's changing around us. So we call that policy manual creep. And I like to say that I can quickly assess how much drama there is in an organization by looking at the size of their policy manual. Bigger it is, the more drama they have. So again, with organizations, if you're a fan of like Peter Senge with his learning organization concept, or anyone who talks about constant change and evolution in companies, they talk a lot about developing the skills to stop, listen, learn, and adapt. And that applies to organizations as well as individuals. I know that when I get going too hard and I'm really in P and I'm trying to get stuff done and I just don't stop, my body and my soul and my mind, it starts to tell me. I get tired, I gain weight, I don't sleep as well, I start drinking more coffee. And so those are the things my body is saying, look, it's time to stop, listen, learn, and adapt. That's how we apply this to organizations, and it's a framework that we use to help figure out where a company is, where a culture is, and what do we need to do next. I'm curious what questions you have about this topic. See if there's any other questions I haven't answered. Well, feel free to, oh, here we go. All right, great. Well, I'm going to move on, and it's okay to type questions if you think of them. Here's how we know. And I want to throw this question out about how do I know if my organization is at risk of extinction? Because companies go out of business and become extinct every day. Churches, organizations, here are some of the criteria that we look for. First of all, a scarcity mindset, and that has to do with, do we start to believe that there isn't enough to go around, and so we have to protect, and I have to get mine before you get yours, and that leads to unhealthy competition, where we're kind of trying to step on each other to get to the top. And then that breeds an us versus them mentality, and we've seen so much polarization kind of in our culture now, you know, around the election, around terrorism. There's so much us versus them mentality. And in organizations, that manifests itself in very closed systems and silos. Just the other day, I was consulting with a company where they have, it's a good company, they have a good track record, and what's happened is each of their department heads is very loyal to their department and has a lot of cronyism going on there, but as an executive team, they don't work well together, and they don't realize that ultimately their loyalty and their priority is to the mission and the vision and to each other as an executive team, not to protecting their departments. And so that could cost them the viability of their organization. Of course, adversarial and defensive leadership, where everyone's trying to defend themselves instead of being open, protect their turf. And what tends to happen is we start to believe that power and force are okay ways to get what we want. And then we allow toxic employees to stay. I don't know if any of you have toxic employees in your organization. I was talking with a coach the other day, and he talked about Terrell Owens, the football player, and how he said Terrell was a cancer to his teams, not because he wasn't a great athlete, but because of his attitude and the way in which he treated people. It's very difficult when we have employees that are maybe talented or they perform well in one area, but they also are drama queens and drama kings. And we allow them to stay around for a lot of different reasons. But when we allow that, we know we are getting close to extinction. Here's one. Policy manual thickness relates to the number of laws on book for a civilization. Yeah, absolutely. If we take it all the way back out to a civilization, we could look at the number of laws that we're using to try to control everybody and keep everything in line. Great. Any other questions about drama and organizational dynamics? Here's one. How do you see our future, the USA, in light of the last presidential election campaign and its results? Well, now you've done it. Great question. I actually am very interested in this, and I think one of my biggest concerns is that we are seeing all of the signs of conflict with casualties, and we're seeing all of the signs that have preceded the demise of previous civilizations. The question of can we break through is more important than it's ever been. What are we going to do about climate change? We don't have to agree who caused it, but what are we going to do about it, and how are we going to adapt? What are we going to do about the increasing gap in health, wealth, and education in the world and in different parts of our country? Those often precede major seismic shifts. What are we going to do about the increasing polarization and divisiveness around ideologies and principles and laws? Even when it comes to making a law about anything from women's rights to healthcare reform, it seems like the conversation quickly just goes like this, to extremes. And so I'm very concerned, and we'll see what happens. It seems, another question says, it seems like the larger an organization, the larger the policy manual. Is more drama just an expected outcome of size? You know, that's a great question. I had coffee this morning with Gordon Ramsay, who's the police chief of Wichita, Kansas, and he's kind of made the national news for doing some really creative community building around the Black Lives Matter movement and around police relationships, particularly in minority communities. And he said he heard that when an organization gets to 1,000 people, there's like almost no chance of changing. And so I don't know, maybe it's related. The next question is, would you recommend using your book as a way to increase board commitment and process? Absolutely. I wrote the book to be a guide, a field guide, a manual, and each chapter has questions for personal and professional development in the appendix, and then there is an accompanying discussion guide if you want to use it as a team or as a group. And those questions get pretty pointed around accountability and around making behavior change in applying each of the concepts. So very much I think it would apply. Another question, it says, so we had a civil war and then rebuilt. Any principles used there to go from P to O? I don't know. I would say probably not. I think when there's civil war, generally it's conflict with casualties and everything falls apart and then we're kind of left to pick up the pieces. I think one great example of an exception would be when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. It would have been perfectly understandable if as president he would have gone on a rampage against all of the white South Africans that had run apartheid for all these years and kind of get back at them, and that could have created a huge civil war, but he didn't. Instead, he stopped, he listened, he adapted, and he moved on in some very creative ways economically and politically to be able to avoid the kind of violence that would be typical in that kind of a situation. Okay. Our next topic is, actually I'm going to skip that. The next topic is where do we go from here? And I know that some of you, several of you even before this webinar have expressed to me some curiosity about, well, I would like to take it to the next level, whether it's with my board or maybe I'm a trainer and I want to bring these tools and curriculum into my organization, or maybe I'd like to find somebody to come teach our team or our group to do this. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about what options are for you if you want to bring this into your organization. The first place I'd recommend is down below there, our website, nextelement.com tools/LOD. LOD is where everything related to this model and these tools resides, and you can learn all kinds of things there about what to do. But I'm going to give you a very high-level overview first. Obviously, the book is a great place to start, and for many of you, you have the book, you've taken the assessment, and it can be combined with the discussion guide to enhance its value for teams. One thing I should point out is some people have been going on Amazon to look for my book, and somebody told me it's available for $99, and I wouldn't fall for that. I think somebody's trying to resell one of my copies. For now, the only place you can get my book is from our website, and it is a hardcover limited edition copy because it's been picked up by Barrett Kohler Publishers to publish a paperback version next April, and so we're not printing any more of these. And so if you want, we put everything into this book, from the quality of the cover to the paper inside to the graphic design. We really put a lot into this. So if you want one of these limited edition hardcover copies, We have a few left, and they won't be available anymore after the paperback comes out. Hey, it's a great Christmas gift, right? Next thing you can do, if you'd like to take it to the next level, is take advantage of our online self-guided course. We've put together a course called Conflict and You, and it comes with the DRA results, and it's about a 16-page self-guided manual with different activities and exercises and questions for discussion where you and your team can learn about the principles of compassion, the drama roles, and then how to start turning that conflict into positive results. It takes about 2 hours to work through with your team, and you can use the code in your book to get this course for free, and that's limited. After a while that will no longer be available, but you can buy the course online on our website, and if you're interested in having this course for your whole team or your whole department, we can sell you a code that will allow multiple people to take the DRA and get their own Conflict in You workbook. I've mentioned the discussion guide here, and it's available on our website, and you can also get what we call, I believe it's team packs, where you can get 5 books in a discussion guide, and essentially the discussion guide is free at that point. And then every book has a code in it where you can take the DRA and put that together for a pretty good comprehensive team building program that's very, very cost effective. Let's say you want to go to the next level and bring in a professional, certified leading out of drama facilitator or trainer to work with you. We have a variety of curriculum that are tailored to different levels of an organization. The Conflict in You course is the basic entry-level 2-hour course, and that one works really, really well if you would like to expose a lot of people, maybe at the front lines or entry-level staff, to these concepts. Maybe you're trying to bring this terminology and these concepts into your whole organization so you can have a common language to talk about drama and how we have positive conflict. Conflict in You course is a perfect way to do that on a large scale. The app pack, somebody asked, what is the LOD app pack? Well, that's the next one there in the middle. And this is a collection of specific application workbooks where we take the compassion cycle and the drama triangle and we apply those concepts to real daily problems that every leader faces. These courses, each one takes about 4 hours to work through with a team of leaders, and they hit on 4 big areas in an organization. The first one there is performance. How do we have tough conversations around performance when there's a gap between what we want or what we expect and what people are doing? And how do we start to close that gap in a way that applies the principles of compassionate accountability? So this one, every workbook starts with a section on what does drama look like when we have drama-based performance conversations, and then what would a compassionate, accountable version look like? And every book has templates and little fill-in-the-blank things, and everyone ends with a little tear-out cheat sheet that you could carry in your purse or in your backpack or in your bag to help you remember the concepts and apply them when it counts. The second workbook is Daily Connections, and that has to do with proactively building rapport, building trust, and building that strong bond between you and your people every single day. Because the more we proactively practice compassionate accountability, the less drama we have down the road. The third book is Apologies. We feel like failure is an incredible opportunity to learn and grow. And so part of that is being able to do a really good apology. And so we've crafted a whole workbook just on how to own up, make things right, and rebuild trust when mistakes have been made. And then the final one is meetings, and it probably should be on the top because meetings are where all the drama happens. And so we have a whole workbook dedicated to learning how to conduct meetings with compassionate accountability. Everything from how to deal with an agenda item to how to prepare for the meeting to how to open and close the meeting, even a tip on how to make decisions in a way that's a little bit different than what we've been used to, and how to deal with people that dominate meetings. I have a question here, 2 of them. I've been referring to your book in my current Doctor of Education Evaluations course. I found it very useful in addressing gaps. I'm still reading the book and making personal application. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks to whoever sent that. Really appreciate that. My previous book was being used in several universities as well, and so it actually is designed to be a course. It has 13 chapters, 13 weeks, a discussion guide, and an assessment. It really makes for a great college course. Down below, the row of materials along the bottom are actually materials that would only be delivered by a certified, trained, leading out of drama provider. And they're able to deliver a lot more advanced curriculums. One of them is called Core Concepts, and this is an 8-hour full-day training on every concept related to the model, including a lot of things that aren't even in the materials that you have in front of you. The LOD Advanced Applications are 1 to 2 day curriculums that focus on a specific area of healthy conflict. So we have curriculums for intrapersonal conflict, which is how do I deal with getting rid of the drama on the inside, interpersonal, which is how I deal with healthy conflict between me and other people, and then advanced diagnostic skills. How can I become a drama recognition Jedi and I can see it coming anywhere and know what to do next? Also, we have the full DRA, which is an enhanced output report that includes a lot of other information and concepts from the book, like the choices to move or the leading indicators for drama. We make this available to our certified practitioners and providers so that they can use it in mentoring and coaching relationships where in conjunction with the book or in conjunction with their own coaching trajectory that they use. Maybe you are with a large organization and you have an internal training department, or maybe you're an independent practitioner and you'd love to add these tools to your toolkit so that you can train other people. We have 3 different levels. Let me check the time here. We have 3 different levels of certification. Each one of them is very rigorous and it provides you with a specific scope of practice and access to a specific suite of materials. The facilitator is for people who want to facilitate the Conflict in You course, that entry-level course, or the Leadership App Pack, and they can access the basic DRA output report, and that can accomplish 80% of training needs in most organizations. Practitioners our practitioner certification is all about becoming a compassionate accountability Jedi, and these are for people that may or may not want to teach or train. Maybe they're in a mentoring, coaching role, or maybe they're just dealing with drama all day long. The head of HR for Dean and DeLuca, they're a national gourmet grocer. She uses this model just to deal with hundreds of calls every day from department heads and her stores all over the country. They're calling with drama, and she's got to turn that negative energy into positive problem solving. And so she appreciates the skills simply for that purpose. The provider is the highest level of certification. It gives you access to all of the curriculum, all of the different output reports for the DRA, and also it gives you virtually unlimited access to coaching, business development, and support from Next Element, and gets you involved in a network of providers around the world. And we have annual conferences and tons of stuff to help support, connect, and develop our trainers around the world. All of this is also available on our website, and you can find out a lot more about the specifics of each certification, how much it costs, what it takes, and what to do. And you can always call us. We're happy to walk through it with you because it can get a little bit complicated. Another thing that we're very proud of and we'd like to emphasize is that we're very, very keen on measuring outcomes, collecting data, and having solid analytics to show that what we do works. And we want to extend those resources to anyone who is using our tools anywhere in the world. MyNE is our Amazon cloud-based relationship portal where you can manage all of your data, look at all the assessments, have a secure private place for you to manage and view and print and email and aggregate all of the data from the DRA that you're using with your customers, your employees, your clients. NEOS is our valid and it's actually the world's only context-sensitive efficacy measurement tool. It's a very short online tool to measure changes in people's confidence in their ability to be open, resourceful, and persistent. And so we provide this tool free for unlimited use for all of our certified providers. and practitioners to be able to track the outcomes of their program and have solid metrics to show that what they're doing works. We also use this data to be able to show globally the impact of our trainings and to be able to advocate and market and continue to build the quality of the brand. With all of our trainings, we track trainer behavior, and we have a program evaluation that is available to any one of our certified trainers to use to evaluate the impact of their trainings. We feel like it's very, very important that the trainers are demonstrating the concepts that they're teaching and that they're connecting with their customers. And so we measure that. This is an example of a training that I did. We also ask 3 different questions relating to the validity and the value of the assessment of the DRA. We want this DRA to be relevant, we want it to be accurate, and we want it to be useful for people. And so we're collecting data continuously on that. We ask people to rate the impact of their training program on 4 key areas: personal relationships, work relationships, leadership skills, and teamwork. And they rate based on percent improvement. And so we're able to look at data here for what was the perceived and experienced impact of this program on these 3 key areas. These are pretty universal to any kind of a professional leadership development program, and we want to make that available to our certified trainers. This is an example of outcomes that goes with our NEOS self-efficacy instrument. Here's an example of outcomes from a training I did on a change in people's perceived efficacy when they're at home. And we see here the bar graphs are kind of deceiving. The real data is down below there where we have effect sizes and a bunch of other statistics. But this is a way to show real statistical change. And people you can administer the NEOS at beginning and the end of a training program, at 6-month follow-up. We administer it periodically at like 3-month increments when we're doing long training programs to look at the changes over time. Finally, I have about 6 minutes left, and I want to leave a few minutes for questions. If you're interested in building a culture of compassion and accountability in your organization, this is a rough outline of what it might look like to deploy this system-wide. And so we have this diagram. It's also on our website, and it shows what training curriculum and trajectory we recommend for each level of an organization so that there can be a consistent language, consistent principles, and consistent solid application of compassion and accountability at each level of an organization. Again, if this is something you're interested, we're happy to talk through it with you and what it would actually look like for your organization. Do you have any questions about what it would mean to bring any or all of this to your organization or to your toolkit? And I'm happy to go back to any of the slides as well. I'll stop here and see what questions you have. I should mention that our Leading Out of Drama system, it is designed for global application. Our infrastructure is applied globally, and it's on the Amazon cloud, so it's very, very robust. And we have translations in place. We actually are very excited to have just solidified an arrangement to translate the model into Dutch. And so the LOD will be available in Holland, in the Netherlands, in Dutch as well. And we have conversations going for several other languages as well. You can see where our trainers are all over the world on our website. I'll go to my last slide here. This is how we can stay connected if you're interested. I'd love you to join my blog. I write 1 article a week on Wednesdays about applying all of our tools to leadership and life. And you can email me anytime, like us on Facebook, and LinkedIn. These are some hashtags if you're into Twitter, or if you want to search what all has been published on Twitter about these concepts. These are the two big hashtags that we're using a lot of now. Really appreciate someone said thanks for your time. The information is clear and thorough. Excited to continue. Well, I'm really, really glad. And if you're using LOD, we wish you well. If you're not yet and would like to, give us a call or email me. A question that came in are the slides from today available to print? They are not. However, we are recording this webinar, and it's going to be on YouTube pretty soon for you to, Next Element 1 is the name of our YouTube channel. And in fact, I recorded a similar webinar a couple weeks ago, and that one's already up on YouTube. Same slides as today, but I think your all's questions were a little bit better today, so this one might be worth waiting for. I also might mention that the first webinar that many of you attended is also going to be on YouTube, and so those two webinars together form kind of a introductory and then advanced course on compassionate accountability that you're free to use and share and watch with your team. Well, great. If there aren't any other questions, I want to thank you all for tuning in, all of you that came today and gave your time. I just got a greetings from Holland. Well, in fact, I just got a greetings from the team that we're going to be partnering with to bring this to Dutch. So I want to give a shout out to Marcia in Holland. Great to hear from you today. And for everyone, I'm signing off and wishing you a compassionately accountable holidays that has less drama. No drama would be great. So wishing you well and looking forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful holiday.